Thanks, right? Thank you all for coming. So I'm basically going to build up on a lot of work that Ben actually spoke about. So there was advantages that Ben was speaking before me because the first 4 or 5 slides are essentially going to be like a poor attempt to replicate whatever Ben was introducing to you guys. So this is joint work with Pari, who was a postdoc with Ben when he was in Wisconsin. Now he's at Phillips Research, and Steve Wright is a professor at Madison. All right, so just to set up the problem, so we know that data can usually be modeled using just a few simple components, right? And these simple components could correspond to a few number of wavelet coefficients in images. In recommendation systems, you just need a few unit rank matrices. If you want to do regression on really large graphs, and you know that the function is sparse in some sense, then you're only concerned with a small number of cliques or edges on the graph. Or like in neuroimaging and fMRI studies, you know that the voxels that are important for determining what task a subject was performing was only restricted to just a few regions in the brain. So, and of course, there are lots of other applications like cut polytopes and permutation matrices and whatnot. And so Venkat and Ben and these guys had a really good formulation of what problems like these mean. So you can assume that the variables that you're interested in can be represented by using just a few number of what are called as atoms. And so these atoms are the basic building blocks of whatever signal you're trying to approximate. So just to formalize, let's say you just have an atomic set script A. The atoms would just be given by these things, these small a's, and these a's could be vectors or matrices or whatever it is that you're interested in, right? And the atomic norm, under certain mild conditions, again, as Ben mentioned, the atomic norm would just be given by this definition, okay? And you can think of this as the L1 analog of the general sparse signals, right? Because this, if C's are all positive or non-negative, and this is just the sum over Ca, then that's just the L1 norm of the vector C. So this just like formalizes this notion of what simplicity means in general structurally constrained problems. And depending on what A's are, you could have the atomic norm to be the L1 norm, the nuclear norm, group lasso, group sparse norms, moment problems, Fourier vector, so on and so forth. So the goal is we would like to have a method that helps us solve a problem of this form. So if the atomic norm is just the L1 or nuclear norm, there are methods to do it. But if you have a completely arbitrary atomic set, what sort of method would you use to actually solve a problem of this form, right? So that's the focus of this work. And the Frank-Wolf method gives like a really good formula, really good way to actually solve problems of this form. So again, like I'm sure you guys know this, and excuse me if I've like missed out someone here, but that's like by no means like a comprehensive list of people. So in the Frank-Wolf, you just solve like a simple optimization at each iteration. You pick the next atom you would want to project to here. Then you just do a line search, and then you update. Right? That's just a simple Frank-Wolf conditional gradient sort of technique. But then this is a greedy method, right? And as with all greedy methods, it comes with a few disadvantages. So this is just a simple L1 regularization example. So those are the problem dimensions, and this is what you get if you just solve something like Frank-Wolf. So you can see that you can sometimes pick atoms that are, so blue is the true solution, red is what you get. You could pick atoms that are suboptimal. You could like miss out on a few things here. And there are a lot of like tiny non-zeros here, which of course you can't see. And so then that's just like an artifact of using a greedy method, right? You would end up choosing a lot of suboptimal atoms. So the goal here is to somehow retain this sort of computational simplicity, while at the same time coming up with a method that lets you do better than this, okay? And so we call our method cogent. It's this conditional gradient with enhancement and truncation, which is why I keep calling it conditional gradient and not Frank-Wolf, because cogent sounds better than Fuent, for example. So anyway, this is the problem you're trying to solve, okay? And there are like 3 stages to it, basically. So the forward step is essentially just the conditional gradient step. The line search is closed form. This is super efficient, as it would be. Optionally, you could perform this sort of enhancement. And so instead of saying minimize this function subject to the atomic norm being less than tau, you can just say minimize this function here subject to the L1 norm of C being less than tau. Right? And this is just a gradient projection onto the scaled simplex, which is super efficient again, but it's again optional. And then, so in the forward step, you just set your iterate to be AT times CT, where AT are the atoms you selected, CT are the coefficients. So up until here, it's just doing standard conditional gradient. Then you just do this backward step. So what do we do here? You form this quadratic form of the function, but around a single atom in this atomic set. And then you pick the atom that has the least contribution to your current solution, right? And again, this is super efficient because all you need to do is as soon as a certain atom enters your iterate, you just have to compute a matrix vector multiplication and its norm. So long as you're just storing these, this is just finding the minimum over a vector. And once you find what this A bad, the atom that minimizes this thing is, you remove it from the set, and then you compute the corresponding coefficients, and I'll call the new iterate X bar, which is A bar times CT bar. Is that okay? And then finally, so now I have two candidates, right? I have X tilde that I picked here in the forward step, and then I have X bar here, which is the result of the backward step. And then we just check a condition, which is, this is just like a sufficient decrease condition, and I'll get to it in a minute. But if this condition is satisfied, the new iterate is going to be X bar. If that is not satisfied, then we don't actually, this thing was like a complete waste of time, and we just stay with whatever iterate we have. So, oh, and also you can actually keep doing this, right? You can say I'm going to remove the first atom, check this condition, get rid of it. Then I'm going to go back and see whatever is remaining of my atomic set, do this again, remove it, and I can keep doing this till this condition is not satisfied. So what I'm doing in the process is I'm trying to remove all the suboptimal atoms that I might have chosen in the previous iterations. Sorry? Oh, eta is just a parameter specified by the user, like close to half. For convergence guarantees, you want it to be less than half, bigger than 0. Has to be less than 1 for anything to work anyway. So just pictorially, let's say that's the function f of x you're minimizing. Oops, that's the function f of x you're minimizing. That's f of x t minus 1. In the forward step, you get f of x tilde t. So you're guaranteed to make some sort of progress at least. And then depending on what eta is, that's the location. That's eta times f of t minus 1 plus 1 minus eta f tilde t, right? And then you do this, and then you compute x bar, and then let's say that's where you ended up with. So what I'm saying is, so long as this x bar doesn't take you back above this line, so long as you're not completely nullifying whatever progress you made, you retain it. If this green dot was over there, then we say, okay, we're just going to retain x tilde t and not actually perform the backward step. So in the process of removing multiple atoms, what you could do is you do this, find an x bar, then think of that as your new iterate, find another x bar. If that lands somewhere over there, then you're still good. Keep doing that, and then as soon as it goes over there, you just say, stop, I'm not going to remove atoms anymore from my basis. Okay, so that's good. So revisiting the L1 example I showed, that's what you got with Frank-Wolf, and this is what you get with Cogent. So it's not exact recovery, there was noise in the measurements, but I should have put the errors over there, but this is significantly better than that, at least, right? Okay, so that's good. I'm just going to compare what we are doing with the away steps in Frank-Wolf. So this is the definition of the away step, right? So at each iteration, you choose an atom based on these set of equations. And remember, in our case, we are dealing with these atomic norms. So the atomic set is symmetric about the origin. So A away is just going to be the negative of A forward, right? Because both A forward and A away are candidate atoms in our case. So, and you decide to pick A forward or A away depending on which one is more correlated with the negative gradient, right? So in this process, you may or may not remove atoms, because if A away happens to be the negative of one of the atoms in your current basis, even then you'll only remove it only if the corresponding coefficients also cancel out, right? So this does speed up convergence, but that doesn't necessarily sparsify your solution. But in the truncation step, we are explicitly trying to remove atoms. We are saying this atom should not be in our representation. Just get rid of it and see what you can do. And again, just to give an example, here's a signal, just L1 minimization. The true sparsity was 100. Using this, we got that as the estimated sparsity, and errors are quite good, but not as good as what you might get if you just do this. Okay, so this is doing something different than just the standard away steps. All right, convergence, again, like Rob mentioned, you can get linear convergence if the optimum is within the constraint set. But again, as Francis Bach mentioned, it's not really a really useful result, because you could do other methods to do it to actually get the optimum. But it's nice to know that at least that convergence result still holds if you do this method. Similarly, for other more realistic cases, you would get the standard 1/t convergence rate, but you need eta to be less than half. Okay, I'm hiding it in there in that C, but so long as eta is less than half, you can, again, the convergence doesn't get affected. All right, so finally some results. I promise I'll go beyond L1 at some point in time, but I'm just staying at L1 just because it's like simple to show. So you can see that, so blue is Frank-Wolf, conditional gradient. This is the number of iterations. This black line, I don't know how visible it is. This is doing our method, but without actually performing that enhancement step. So without doing the projected gradient iterations in between, and red is what we get. Okay, so this is number of iterations, and obviously you expect it to do better because it's doing something more complicated at each iteration. But this is how much time it takes to get the objective down. So again, sorry, blue is conditional gradient, and this is our method. So it starts off a little slower, and as the problem dimension increases, this red line would shift a bit more to the right, but eventually it would like just keep going down and go below this blue line. So you'll see something like that in all those cases. So even in terms of time, it actually does, you get to a better objective function value faster. So both in terms of iteration and the time it takes. Two more examples. This is matrix completion. Again, if you just do conditional gradient, so the matrix rank was 5. This was like I forget, like hundreds of dimensions in both dimensions, hundreds of applications. So the original matrix was rank 5. That's this blue thing. If you just do conditional gradient, you pick, oh sorry, the original matrix was rank 3, sorry. If you do conditional gradient, you pick like a rank 5 matrix. Again, that's because you end up picking these suboptimal atoms, whereas you get nearly exact recovery if you do cogent. This is just comparing with sparsa, which is like an accelerated projected gradient sort of method. Again, so this is like an overlapping group lasso problem. And so to solve a problem like this, using sparsa basically, what you'd need to do is, if two variables overlap, sorry, if two groups overlap, you have to make explicit copies of the two groups. Right? And so the problem dimension really blows up. So for example, so if you have like 2,000 groups, it's not showing up. So if you have 2,000 groups, the original dimension would be something like 40,000, but if you want to do sparsa, the original dimension ends up being 100,000. And that significantly slows down the algorithm because you're moving these huge matrices around. So you take like 850 seconds versus almost 3,000 seconds to solve. Okay, so now this is one of the applications that really motivated us to work on this. So this is, Ben was talking about this. This is like parameterizing the set of atoms on a single dimension. So this is like a moment problems. So what these atoms are here are individual Fourier basis vectors, and you actually have a continuous set of atoms here. So it's continuous between frequencies 0 and 1, and the frequency determines what Fourier basis you have, right? Now, if you do conditional gradient, you could do conditional gradient because you can discretize the grid and just solve an L1 problem, but you end up doing something like that, right? And here, here's what we actually do. We discretize the grid, we solve an L1 problem, and because in conditional gradient you can go back and keep adding more and more atoms to your solution, we say, if we pick 2 atoms, we're just going to add additional grid points between those 2 atoms. So we're going to adaptively keep refining our grid. Okay, and so the hope is that if the grid becomes really, really fine, you will eventually hit the atom that you actually want to hit. So we do that here, it's CG, and that's what we get. But if you take the same thing and do cogent, the advantage here is that as you keep adding new atoms into your grid, the old atoms can start getting rejected, right? If I pick this, and as soon as I see that there's an atom there, I can say, okay, I don't want that anymore. Similarly, all these atoms. So you actually hit the solution pretty nicely here. And so that's good. Also, again, as in the case of Frank-Wolf, you can actually solve these problems inexactly and still show that you can get good convergence, right? So here's this problem of the sparse overlapping sets, which we had in NIPS. The idea here is you're solving like a group sparse regularized problem, but it's sparse within the groups as well. And so doing the Frank-Wolf iteration exactly is hard in this case, so we just do it approximately. So what we do is we project the gradient onto a particular group, and then once you pick the group, you project it onto a single atom within the group. And again, you get really, really good solutions. And all of these kind of stems from the fact that you have the ability to purge the suboptimal atoms somehow. Okay, so just to finish, this is what we get. So using this sort of Frank-Wolf cogent sort of technique, you can solve very general high-dimensional problems, so long as there's a good characterization of what the atomic set is, and so long as there's a good way to perform the forward Frank-Wolf iterate, the inner product projection, you can use this method to solve it. The backward step that we have makes the solutions a lot sparser, helps you approximate the signal that you're trying to find a lot better, and you don't lose out on the convergence rates. So you can, actually we think we can do slightly better with this, but right now, there's still work in progress, but at least you can't do worse in terms of the rates of convergence, at least. We're also looking at extensions to online settings, and we are working on a few like demixing algorithms, which is like low rank plus sparse or group sparse plus sparse sort of applications. We have a few preliminary results, but like not much to show as of now. All right, thanks. Yeah.
So you mentioned Frank-Wolf with away steps. So have you compared it with? Have you compared Frank-Wolf with a way step with your algorithm?
Yeah. So that's what this thing was. So, I mean, we've done a lot. Oops, not more than this, but like that, right? So that's what you'd get if you just do away steps. So you will get a sparser solution than what you would get if you get Frank-Wolf. And the reason is because you can think about it this way, right? Think of A, so in this case, if the set is symmetric about the origin, A away is just going to be minus of A forward, right?
So what's, okay, can you do that? That's a bunch of numbers?
Yeah,
What's your result?
so this is like an L1 regularized problem, right? So you're trying to minimize f of x subject to an L1 constraint.
Yeah.
Sorry, constraint on the L1 now.
Uh-huh.
It's a sparse vector. The true sparsity, it's not working. So the true sparsity is 100. So there are 100 non-zeros. So ideally, if you try to get that back exactly, you would get 100 non-zeros in the solution as well. But obviously, there's noise. So okay, there's noise, right? And those are that's the L2 error. So L2 norm of the solution with the true x, because we know what the true x is, and that's just the L1 norm.
So that's for generalization.
Oh no, this is just like a toy example. Like I know what the x is.
Okay, yeah. So, but if you go to the next slide where you have curves, or the next one, then in terms of convergence, do you see any difference?
So the away steps would be closer to this than to that. I don't have it there. I have it on my computer somewhere. So I mean, I have tried it. It's just not this. So it's not. So in terms of the number of iterations it takes, it would probably take. Oops, this is not working. So it would be like fairly close to the red or the black line there. But again, in terms of time, you would get. So it's really fast in terms of time. But again, it would cross the blue line and then flatten out under the blue line and not go all the way down to the red line. Yeah.
So if you go back to the slide where you described the away steps, so maybe that's not so accurate in the sense that away steps, you have argmax A and A. I believe in the paper it's A's in the face determined.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a typo.
So is that
Sorry.
how it was
Yeah.
implemented?
Yeah, no, it has to be in the active set.
Okay.
It's like, that's a typo there.
All right, thank
Yeah, the active set, yeah. So basically, you can think of this to be like the maximum in the linearized version of f, right? And that's just that, because f is quadratic, that's like exact. That's exact, because f is quadratic. So just like you've seen that it slightly helps a bit when you actually try to do it.
Other questions? I have a question. So how does your algorithm compare to accelerations of Frank-Wolf? Either called
Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
fully corrected in the greedy literature.
So
You
the fully,
basically take all the atoms gathered so far, and then you minimize either on the convex form or the conic form of those.
in the end, so right at the end
No,
though, right?
every iteration.
So if you, it goes back to something like this, right? This sort of just fully corrected sort of thing.
Yes.
So, but the fully corrected will actually nail the solution there, but it will take a lot of time. Here, if you're using this as a warm start, even if you do a few iterations of this, you'll just get better than what you get there.
Yes.
So just like, so that speeds up the method. If you do the entire fully corrected thing, you can actually nail the solution faster, but then this problem might just become as hard as the original problem then. Whereas you can do this regardless of what the problem is.
Right.
But I haven't explicitly like run experiments and compared the two. Because you can't always do it for any atomic set, so there's no point to doing it.
Thank you.